For many people, the story of Sammy Davis Jr. is one of dazzling talent, relentless determination, and show business greatness. But behind the iconic smile, behind the tap shoes and smoky Las Vegas stages, there was another story, one that stayed hidden for decades. That story began to unfold when investigators opened a storage unit Sammy had kept under a false name. For 30 years, the locker in a quiet Burbank warehouse sat untouched, paid for monthly in cash until the day he died. What was inside would shock even those who believed they knew him best. Inside were letters about his biological mother's identity, tapes containing conversations powerful enough to ruin careers, and documentation of what truly happened between Sammy Davis Jr. and Kim Novak in 1958. Sammy had documented nearly everything. After 3 decades of silence, the full truth about his childhood, his struggles, and his private battles could finally be told. Sammy Davis Jr. was born on December 8, 1925, in Harlem, New York City. His parents, Sammy Davis Sr. and Elvira Ella Sanchez, were vaudeville performers, constantly on the road and deeply immersed in the entertainment world. Sammy essentially entered show business the moment he was born, but his heritage held secrets. His mother was a Cuban immigrant, a detail the family hid to avoid the anti-Cuban sentiment widespread in America during those years. In show business, maintaining a public image mattered more than truth. From his earliest days, Sammy's life was marked by racism and the need to mask parts of his identity. Yet growing up during the Harlem Renaissance also placed him in a vibrant cultural environment where music, dance, and artistic expression flourished. By age 2, Sammy was already performing with the Will Maston Trio, the act led by his father and their close family friend Will Maston. While most toddlers played with toys, Sammy danced under bright stage lights and traveled from city to city, absorbing the rhythms of theaters long before he could fully understand them. This unusual childhood made him a seasoned performer, but it cost him the normal life other children had. He never attended traditional school. His education came from road life, watching audiences, studying other performers, picking up languages, and teaching himself instruments. He grew up fast, but he grew up brilliant. Life on tour introduced Sammy not only to applause, but also to America's harsh racial divisions. He saw whites-only signs and experienced discrimination firsthand. These early experiences lit a fire in him. He would prove himself in a world determined to hold him back. At age 3, his parents separated. His father took custody and brought him deeper into the entertainment world. Will Maston became more than a mentor. He became a protector, doing everything he could to shield Sammy from the cruelties of a segregated nation. But even he could not protect the young performer from everything. At age 7, Sammy made his film debut in Rufus Jones for President, acting alongside the legendary Ethel Waters. In a time when black representation in Hollywood was minimal, Sammy's performance stood out. His charisma made people forget his age, and in some moments, even forget the color of his skin. It was clear he was not just talented, he was extraordinary. In 1943, at just 18, Sammy was drafted into the U.S. Army. He was 5'6", 120 pounds, and came from a world of applause into a world of cruelty. Although assigned to one of the first integrated units, integration in theory was not integration in practice. From the moment he arrived, he faced brutal racism. The first soldier he encountered called him a slave. Days later, white soldiers abducted him, tied him down, and painted him white from head to toe. Others urinated on him, tricked him into drinking beer laced with urine, and physically assaulted him. His nose was broken multiple times. One freezing night, soldiers tied him to a tree and left him there, an echo of America's deepest racial terror. In one violent attack, Sammy was beaten so severely he spent 3 days in a hospital. No one was punished. The army looked away. The suffering nearly broke him. He considered ending his own life. But then he discovered something that kept him alive, the Army's entertainment unit. Performing gave him back his identity. Even the men who despised him could not deny his brilliance. Their applause became his armor. His talent became his weapon. After his military service, Sammy returned to the Will Maston Trio and threw himself into performing. In March 1951, At Ciro's, the hottest nightclub on Sunset Boulevard, the trio opened for Janice Page. The night went well, but the real turning point came after the Academy Awards, when Hollywood royalty packed the club. Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Cary Grant, Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland. Sammy performed with such explosive energy that the room erupted. Word spread instantly. He became a star overnight. Television appearances followed, including the Colgate Comedy Hour. ABC even offered him a $20,000 pilot, a monumental opportunity for a black entertainer. Though the pilot was never picked up, Sammy had already broken barriers most people never imagined he could. On November 19, 1954, tragedy struck. While driving from Las Vegas to Los Angeles on Route 66, another car backed into his lane. The impact crushed Sammy against the steering wheel, forcing the car's horn button into his left eye. The damage was irreparable. He spent 9 days in the hospital, supported closely by Frank Sinatra and other friends, and miraculously returned to the stage just 8 weeks later, wearing an eye patch, then a glass eye. The accident also led to one of the most defining choices of his life, his conversion to Judaism. As he recovered, he connected deeply with Jewish history, their suffering, and their perseverance. Despite mockery, he embraced the faith wholeheartedly and often said being both black and Jewish made him stronger. Even at the height of his fame, Sammy confronted profound racism. In 1950s Las Vegas, he could headline sold-out shows but was not allowed to stay in the hotels where he performed. He could not walk through front lobbies or dine in the restaurants. Furious, he pushed back, refusing gigs, demanding equality, and leaning on the influence of the Rat Pack. By the early 1960s, Sammy became the first black entertainer allowed to stay at the Frontier Hotel. By 1971, Las Vegas officially ended segregation in its hotels. Sammy helped make that possible. His talent was unmatched. He mastered nearly every aspect of performance: singing, dancing, acting, comedy, impressions, drums, trumpet, piano, vibraphone, even trick shooting. His versatility earned him the title Mr. Show Business. Sammy's Broadway debut came in 1956 with Mr. Wonderful. Critics dismissed it, but audiences loved him. The show ran for 383 performances. In 1964, he starred in Golden Boy. The production sparked outrage because it depicted a romance between Sammy's black character and a white woman. The interracial kiss on stage led to bomb threats and attempts to shut the show down. But Sammy refused to back down. His performance earned him a Tony nomination. He also made powerful contributions to film, starring in Anna Lucasta, Porgy and Bess, Sweet Charity, and Rat Pack classics like Ocean's 11 and Robin and the Seven Hoods. On television, he became one of the first black stars to host a network variety show, The Sammy Davis Jr. Show, in 1966. The friendship between Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. began in 1941, when Sammy was just 15. Frank, then a rising star, was mesmerized by Sammy's talent. Over the years, their bond grew into one of the strongest friendships in show business history. Frank didn't just open doors. He broke them down. When Sammy was denied entry to the Copacabana due to his race, Frank demanded he return the next night, this time as an honored guest. He refused to work for any club that wouldn't treat Sammy equally. After Sammy's car accident, Sinatra covered his medical bills, brought him to Palm Springs to recover, and pushed him back into the spotlight. Their friendship represented loyalty in its purest form, and it helped Sammy break into spaces no other black entertainer had been allowed to enter. In 1960, the world witnessed a remarkable friendship unfold not just in the tabloids but on the silver screen. Ocean's 11 premiered in Las Vegas on August 3rd, bringing together an ensemble cast that would become legendary: Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford. The film followed a group of World War II veterans executing a daring heist, blending humor, camaraderie, and style in a way that had rarely been seen before. Behind the cameras, however, the production was just as legendary. The Rat Pack maintained their signature nocturnal schedule, shooting scenes late into the night and performing live at the Sands and other Las Vegas clubs until the early hours of dawn. Sammy Davis Jr. played Josh Howard, a central figure in the group's intricate plan. Though the movie grossed $5.5 million at the time, equivalent to roughly $55 million today, it was more than numbers that cemented its impact. That final shot of the Rat Pack casually walking past a casino sign bearing their names became one of the most iconic images of Hollywood history. No longer a sidekick, Sammy had stepped firmly into the spotlight, establishing himself as a star in his own right. By the late 1950s, Sammy's success in Las Vegas had grown exponentially. Earning up to $25,000 a week, he drew audiences in by the thousands, yet the city still imposed its racial boundaries. Segregation laws forced him to stay miles away from the hotels where he performed. But Sammy refused to accept this status quo. Through relentless negotiation and sheer force of personality, he became the first black entertainer to receive free room and board at the Frontier Hotel, effectively breaking down a significant barrier in Las Vegas' entertainment scene. His influence reached beyond the stage. He actively supported civil rights movements and even purchased a stake in the Tropicana Hotel. When Nevada passed legislation in 1971 officially ending hotel discrimination, it was in no small part due to Sammy's pioneering efforts. When Sammy Davis Jr. passed away in 1990, Las Vegas dimmed its lights for a minute in solemn tribute. The city that had once rejected him now honored him as royalty, a symbolic gesture of recognition for a lifetime spent transforming entertainment and social norms alike. Sammy's legacy extended well beyond Ocean's 11. In 1962, he starred alongside the Rat Pack in Sergeant 3, a film that grossed $4.3 million. Even the smallest touches, like borrowing a hat from John Wayne for a scene, demonstrated his meticulous dedication to performance. In 1964, he appeared in Robin and the Seven Hoods, a clever blend of music, comedy, and gangster drama, where he held his own alongside legends like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Bing Crosby. These films were not just entertaining. They made a statement. They solidified Sammy as a legitimate Hollywood star and helped reshape the industry's perception of black performers. Despite his professional triumphs, Sammy's personal life was often fraught with peril. In 1957, he fell in love with Kim Novak, one of the most prominent stars in Hollywood. Their romance began after meeting on The Steve Allen Show and quickly developed into a private, yet intense relationship. They shared holidays together, met each other's families, and maintained a delicate secrecy due to the intense societal pressures of the era. Interracial relationships were extremely controversial. Only 4% of Americans approved of them at the time. The nation was still reeling from the horrors of Emmett Till's lynching, and public opinion could be brutal. In January 1958, a gossip column falsely reported that Sammy and Kim were engaged. The rumor spread like wildfire, triggering panic in Hollywood studios and drawing the attention of organized crime figures connected to Columbia Pictures. Sammy was kidnapped by mobsters who issued a terrifying ultimatum: end his relationship with Kim or risk losing his remaining eye, or worse. Even Sam Giancana, the infamous mob boss, warned him that no one in Hollywood could guarantee his safety. Facing unimaginable pressure, Sammy reluctantly ended the relationship on January 7, 1958. Days later, on January 10th, he married Lori White, a black singer, in a marriage designed to placate both the mob and the press. He reportedly paid her up to $25,000 for her cooperation. The night of the wedding was one of anguish. He was found later alone with a gun, devastated by the forced decision. The marriage dissolved by April, leaving emotional scars that lingered for years. In 1960, Sammy married dancer Mae Britt, a union that challenged one of America's most deeply entrenched taboos. Interracial marriage was still illegal in 31 states, and public sentiment was overwhelmingly against it. Their intended wedding at Temple Israel of Hollywood had to be relocated to Sammy's Hollywood Hills home due to bomb threats and violent warnings. Frank Sinatra and Peter Lawford stood as witnesses during the ceremony, marking a powerful public stance against racial prejudice. Both Sammy and Mae had converted to Judaism prior to the marriage, creating one of the rare black Jewish interracial couples in the national spotlight. Their courage came at a high cost. Swastikas were painted on their property. Britt lost her 20th Century Fox contract, and Sammy was disinvited from President Kennedy's 1961 inauguration. Raising a family brought its own challenges. Their daughter Tracy was born in 1961, and they later adopted two sons, Mark and Jeff. Racism remained a constant threat, with slurs scrawled on their cars and property defaced with hateful symbols. Despite these dangers, Sammy and May tried to create a protected bubble for their children, surrounding them with friends who judge by talent rather than race. Tracy later recounted the dissonance of feeling safe at home, yet encountering prejudice in the outside world. Britt's career, tragically, never recovered, as studios believed audiences would reject a white actress married to a black man. By 1968, after 8 tumultuous years of marriage, May Britt filed for divorce, citing extreme cruelty and mental suffering. Sammy's personal life had grown increasingly complicated. Affairs, relentless touring, and public scrutiny created a strain that neither could overcome. After the split, Sammy's life descended into chaos, fueled by drugs and alcohol. Cocaine and amyl nitrite became his escape from both emotional and professional pressures, turning his Beverly Hills home into a hub of wild parties attended by the Hollywood elite. On stage, he remained dazzling. Off stage, he struggled with addiction, self-destruction, and the widening gap between his public image and private turmoil. In 1970, Sammy married dancer Altav Gore, with Reverend Jesse Jackson officiating the ceremony. The couple later adopted a son, Manny, in 1989, just a year before Sammy's death. Altav provided some stability, but their life together was far from calm. Their home became infamous for its wild parties, fueled by rumors of excess and debauchery. Despite these challenges, Altav stayed by Sammy's side as he battled addiction and, later, throat cancer. After his death in 1990, she was left to manage not only grief but also overwhelming financial burdens, including over $7 million in tax debt. Sammy's financial troubles were partly due to his gambling addiction. Despite earning an estimated $50 million over his career and sometimes making up to $185,000 a night, he died owing substantial sums to the IRS. He had a habit of spending recklessly, often at the gaming tables, and unlike Sinatra, whose debts were sometimes forgiven, Sammy had no such reprieve. Generosity and poor business decisions compounded the problem, leaving his estate in a precarious position at the time of his death. In June 1972, Sammy experienced one of his few musical triumphs. His rendition of The Candyman reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, selling over 2 million copies and earning him a gold record. Though he initially disliked the song, its catchy melody and his innate charm resonated with audiences, ushering in a new generation of fans. Later, I've Got to Be Me, released in 1968, became his personal anthem, embodying his life philosophy: to live fully, stay true to oneself, and resist societal pressures. This message was especially poignant given the challenges he had faced, from racism and religious bias to losing his left eye in a 1954 car accident. On stage, the song became more than entertainment. It was a statement of defiance and hope. Las Vegas, where he had built much of his fame, became his kingdom. By the late 1960s, Sammy was earning up to $25,000 weekly, and his insistence on equal treatment helped dismantle entrenched racial barriers. His performances were dazzling displays of talent, incorporating singing, dancing, impressions, and comedy. These shows cemented Las Vegas as the entertainment capital of the world and left a lasting mark on the city's cultural identity, with images of Sammy still visible on casino walls and billboards today. Television became another arena where Sammy broke boundaries. In the 1960s and 1970s, he appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, The Tonight Show, and countless other programs. His own 1966 variety series made history as one of the first network shows hosted by a black entertainer. Sammy's talents, singing, dancing, comedy, and impersonation, allowed him to captivate millions and pave the way for future generations of performers. Yet his personal struggles never remained far from public view. His drug and alcohol use worsened during periods of exploration with the occult, with friends recounting nights of cocaine, endless drinking, and wild excess. Sammy himself admitted to wanting to try everything, a curiosity that often left him physically and emotionally drained. His marriage to Mae Britt eventually collapsed under the weight of addiction and betrayal, and he became unreliable, even canceling shows mid-performance. Though he eventually quit cocaine, the battle with alcohol persisted, and the demons of his private life threatened the stability of the man known to the world as Mr. Show Business. In 1987, fans worldwide were elated when Sammy Davis Jr. reunited with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin for a farewell tour. Initially named the International Farewell Tour and later joined by Liza Minnelli, it promised to be the ultimate Rat Pack experience. Performing in massive arenas holding up to 25,000 spectators, the tour marked a bold evolution from their nightclub beginnings. The first show, held at Oakland Coliseum on March 13, 1988, delivered the magic fans expected. But soon, challenges emerged. Dean Martin, at 70, struggled with the relentless travel and demanding schedule, leaving the two after 5 shows. Sinatra and Davis persevered, bringing in Minnelli and continuing the tour through the United States before heading to Japan, Australia, and Europe, finally concluding in May 1989. The final battle, however, came in August 1989 when Sammy noticed a loss of taste and persistent throat pain. Doctors delivered devastating news: throat cancer, a consequence of decades of smoking, sometimes up to 4 packs a day. Faced with a grim choice, Sammy opted for radiation over surgery to preserve his voice. 8 grueling weeks of treatment followed. Though initially promising, the cancer returned by early 1990, spreading rapidly. Surgery was no longer an option. He could barely whisper, his weight plummeted to about 60 pounds, and the disease robbed him of his voice, strength, and ultimately, his life. On May 16, 1990, at age 64, Sammy Davis Jr. passed away, leaving behind a legacy of artistry, courage, and resilience. Yet the tragedy extended beyond his death. Despite decades of wealth, he owed the IRS over $5 million in taxes, which, with penalties and interest, had ballooned to $7 million, roughly $13 million today. His estate, valued at around $4 million, was insufficient to cover the debt, leaving his wife Altav Gore to bear the financial fallout. She sold their 11,000-square-foot mansion for $2.7 million, most of which went to mortgage repayment. Outstanding debts included tuxedo bills, groceries, and even a shopping center mortgage, further complicating her struggle. The auction of Sammy's personal belongings in September 1991 drew over 1,800 attendees. More than 500 items were sold, including his gold record for the Candyman, $4,275, tap shoes, $11,000, jewelry, scrapbooks, walking sticks, and hats. The auction raised $439,000, a fraction of the $7 million owed to the IRS. Adding to the heartbreak, 185 pieces of jewelry and even an Andy Warhol painting went missing, their whereabouts never fully accounted for. Then, in late 1991, an unexpected twist emerged. Matthias Herenik, a 28-year-old, received a bill for a storage unit he had never rented. Upon investigation, it was revealed that Sammy Davis Jr. had stored items under a false identity in Burbank shortly after the auction. Inside the unit were treasured possessions: a trumpet, an antique record player, a jukebox with a Candyman, clothing, documents, and photographs. An employee of Altav Gore had secretly stored the items to protect them from IRS seizure. Had they continued paying cash, the cash might have remained hidden indefinitely. The discovery, however, underscored yet another chapter in the complex story of Sammy Davis Jr., a life of immense talent, staggering achievement, personal tragedy, and a struggle for dignity against forces both systemic and personal.